Well, shalom, friend, and Pastor Greg here, and I am looking forward to sharing with you today on anti-Semitism as we began in our last meeting. In our last meeting, we talked about my story with regard to anti-Semitism, and I have very few experiences compared to the enormous experiences of what other people have been through, but I have some experiences in it. And almost feel bad bringing up anything that I've been through because it's nothing compared to what some of my dear friends who have deep Holocaust connections, and I have nothing to compare with. But I thought that important for me to just share something about my experiences. Today, though, in this lesson, we want to talk about anti-Semitism as the foundational racism of all racisms. And next time we'll talk about this new kind of anti-Semitism that is on the rise, that is being formed in our day. Well, with that in mind, we begin with the question then, is anti-Semitism really the foundation of all racism? Well, in the Gateway Church weekend service on July 18th, 2020, Pastor Tim Ross explained the Apostle Paul's words about the relationship between Jews and Gentiles in the early church. He then applied those principles to healing of the relationship between blacks and whites and Hispanics and all races. Friend, if the answer to all of the racial division is found in the Jewish-Gentile relationship that is within the church, then doesn't that give evidence that the Jewish-Gentile relationship is actually the foundational racist issue? I mean, if that's where you find the foundational healing ideas, then that must be the foundational problem. And friend, if the church fails to get anti-Semitism right, how can the church ever expect to succeed at the black-white issue? I don't see hope. We've got to get this issue right. Friend, think about how the foundation of everything started. The Bible story starts in Genesis chapters 1 and 2. Everything's good. Chapter 3, it all falls apart. Chapter 4, we've got 2 murders. Chapter 5, we've got just a bunch of genealogies, which is basically the sinful nature of humanity being passed on from generation to generation. And in chapter 6 through 9, God says, I'm going to clean this up. So he sends the flood. But the flood only deals with the outer world. It doesn't deal with the human heart. So the problem's not fixed. We come to Genesis chapter 10. We have more genealogy, sinful nature just being passed down through the generations. And then we come to chapter 11. And in chapter 11, we have the Tower of Babel, where people say, come on, let's build ourselves a city, and we're going to make a name for ourselves in heaven. And you know what? The people of Genesis chapter 11 at the Tower of Babel sound a lot like the devil himself in Isaiah chapter 14, where the devil, Lucifer, says, I will ascend into heaven and I will extol my throne above the stars of God. So humanity has gone to the devil by the time we get to Genesis chapter 11. So in Genesis chapter 12, God says, I am going to fix this problem by dealing with the heart. And in Genesis chapter 12, God calls the first missionary. It's God's way of dealing with the heart issue, not just the outer world with the flood, but now he says, I'm going to fix the problem. So the foundation of all salvation then, of all of the salvation plan, God chose Abraham because he wanted to save humanity. That's the point. This is the foundation of all the answer. And in Genesis chapter 12, God says to Abraham, I'll bless those who bless you, and I'll curse him who curses you, and in you will all the families, all the mishpachot of the earth be blessed. And in Genesis 12:3, he gives that promise. He repeats the promise in Genesis 22, in verse 18, where he changes the word mishpachot from families to the word goyim, which is the word for nations. This is God's plan to fix all of the nations, all of the, if we use the Greek word, the ethnos, all of the relationships in all of the world. And it all comes down to Abraham and his descendants. So hatred for Abraham is really, and his descendants, is really the foundational racist issue. And we can see this. Even the Apostle Paul will make mention of this in Acts 17, where Paul says, and he, God, has made from one blood every nation of men to dwell on all the face of the earth, and has determined their pre-appointed times and the boundaries of their dwellings. In other words, he's chosen when they're going to live and where they're going to live, their boundaries, so that they, humanity, should seek the Lord in the hope that they might grope for him and might find him, though he's not far from each one of us. So God has this salvation plan, and it starts with Abraham. Now, friend, I know that as Jewish people deal with this, because Jewish people have really been through so much tragedy, and just the same way with our black brothers and sisters, they've been through so much tragedy that one of the things you see in common between Jews and blacks is a lot of comedians. I mean, the number of comedians in the Jewish world is just it's amazing how many there are. And they're very similar in nature, if you think about it, to the black comedians. Jewish comedians tend to be loud and like black comedians. And so they're very, very similar kind of comedians. With that in mind, there's one comic, I believe he was a Harvard professor. He was a mathematician, a musician, a satirist, and he wrote this song called National Brotherhood Week. And I actually want to share it with you because it was something that I grew up with in our family, and frankly, all of our neighborhood. We all knew this song. I knew this song, and we used to sing it around the house because it's how Jews deal with tragedy. And so this is Tom Lehrer singing a song called National Brotherhood Week, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Oh, the white folks hate the black folks, and the black folks hate the white folks. To hate all but the right folks is an old established rule, but during National Brotherhood Week, National Brotherhood Week, see Cassius Clay and Mrs. Wallace dancing cheek to cheek. It's fun to eulogize the people you despise, as long as you don't let them in your school. Oh, the poor folks hate the rich folks, and the rich folks hate the poor folks. All of my folks hate all of your folks. It's American as apple pie. But during National Brotherhood Week, National Brotherhood Week, New Yorkers love the Puerto Ricans 'cause it's very chic. Step up and shake the hand of someone you can't stand. You can tolerate him if you try. Oh, the Protestants hate the Catholics, and the Catholics hate the Protestants, and the Hindus hate the Muslims, and everybody hates the Jews. But during National Brotherhood Week, National Brotherhood Week, it's national, everyone smile at one another hood week. Be nice to people who are inferior to you. It's only for a week, so have no fear. Be grateful that it doesn't last all year.
When we would listen to that song, the one line, and everyone hates the Jews, and that line, it just kind of, we just understood it. It's just kind of like, well, everybody hates the Jews, you know. It's just kind of how you kind of laugh and you get on with life, and that's how we dealt with it, because we certainly weren't going to let it hold us down or make excuses or not strive to be all that we can be, and we would just press on. We do everything we could, and always try to, in the Jewish worldview, there's this idea, education is the central issue in the Jewish worldview. And so there is this idea that whatever it is you're going to do, you need to study hard, because you need to be the absolute best that you could possibly be at anything that you do. You may not be the best in the world at it, but you need to be the best that you could possibly be. And that's the Jewish worldview. And that's why we study. We study because we really feel that drive. So we're people of the book who study, whatever it is we're doing. Well, with that in mind, you know, when I say that the world right now is really having a problem with anti-Semitism, I have to ask myself, and I did ask myself over the last couple of months as I thought about this presentation, do I have a false sense, an inflated sense, an inflated perception of how bad anti-Semitism is in the world right now? Well, the Anti-Defamation League has a center on extremism. And the Anti-Defamation League is the organization that tracks all of the anti-Semitic incidents, harassment, vandalism, assault, etc., in the US and around the world. They've been doing this since 1979. They recently published their audit of anti-Semitic incidents. If you were to click on the blue line there, you would get the actual audit. It would take you right to this source. And what you would find is that 2019 was the record year for the most number of anti-Semitic incidents since the ADL has kept record. What makes that statement so over the top is the fact that the year before was the record year. So 2018 was the record, 2019 was 12% more. And there's also, that's just the US. They did a global survey and they found that 1.09 billion people in the world harbor anti-Semitic attitudes based on a survey of 26% of the world. You can find anti-Semitism in every continent, in Asia, in Europe, in Africa, in the Americas, in every continent and in every country. There's no other form of racism that is so widespread. Well, recently, Dr. Michael Brown gave a lecture at the King's University in conjunction with the Gateway Center. And the name of the lecture was The Rising Tide of Christian Anti-Semitism. And this is Dr. Michael Brown, if you're familiar with him, he's the world's leading apologist within Messianism. And he said, sadly, in the last year or two, I have confronted more Christian anti-Semitism, Christians despising of Jews and denigrating of Jews and hating of Jews. I've encountered that more in the last year or two than in the previous 47 or 48 years combined. And friend, if you want to hear the entire 92-minute teaching by Dr. Brown, all you'd have to do is click on this page here and you could hear the whole and watch the entire 92 minutes. But we will move on to one other quote from Dr. Michael Brown from the same lecture. He says, there is a rising tide of anti-Semitism in America and around the world. For years now, scholars have noted that levels of anti-Semitism worldwide are just as high as they were before the Holocaust. But what makes it all the more shocking is that some of the anti-Semitism is on the lips of professing Christians. Friend, it's all around and it's in the church. Here's an article from a publication called Israel Today. And it's not American and it's not messianic, okay? It's not Jesus following. And this is the title of the article from October 2019 is U.S. Jews Afraid to Wear Kippah in Public. The subtitle, even in America, most say it is no longer comfortable to be known as a Jew. The first paragraph in the article, according to the extensive survey, 85% of American Jews, so basically 9 out of 10 American Jews, feel that anti-Semitism in the U.S. is on the increase and that a full third are afraid to show signs of being Jewish in public. 1 out of 3 Jews will hide the fact that they are Jewish when they go out of the house. 47%, in other words, half of all of the Jews in America reported that their Jewish synagogue or their institution, not something I know about somebody else, but my synagogue, my institution, was attacked or threatened. And that a quarter of the Jews admitted that they avoid attending events and visiting Jewish sites for fears of their personal safety. Many said that it is no longer comfortable being Jewish. Friend, that's 8 or 9 out of 10 American Jews are finding this. Anti-Semitism has gone to a new level of craziness. For example, the Egyptian officials, there was a shark attack off the shore in Egypt, and Egyptian officials said they could not rule out the possibility that the fatal shark attack had been a plot by Mossad. That's out of the Jerusalem Post. I mean, Jews are now plotting shark attacks? How are we doing that? I mean, it's crazy. Or here's another one. 1 in 5 English people, this is out of the Jerusalem Post, 1 in 5 people in Great Britain believe that the coronavirus is a Jewish conspiracy, according to a survey. In other words, we created corona, according to 20% of the people who live in Great Britain, for the purpose of financial gain, the article says. I mean, that's just crazy. In fact, this is going back to my home state of New Jersey. This is out of newjersey.com. It says, after spike in anti-Semitism in New Jersey, Jews risk being scapegoated amid coronavirus. Jewish anti-Semitic incidents were up 73% in 2019 from 2018. While New York had more incidents, they were only up 26% because they have far more people. Combined, just those two states make up 37% of all of the anti-Semitic incidents in the country. So, in other words, the coronavirus seems to be even making it worse. In fact, here's a crazy article. People are misappropriating Holocaust imagery for their own political stuff, and in doing so are adding fuel to the fire. Here's an article out of the Times of Israel. The article is entitled, Dutch Muslim Politician Tweets Jewish Yellow Star to Protest Virus Surveillance. He took the Star of David that the Nazis required that Jews wear, and he put on it Corona app, as in like, we're going to use Holocaust imagery now to say we're not going to participate in any kind of application on your phone that will tell who you've been around because of Corona, because we don't want the government doing that to us. And so he's using the Holocaust to make this point. And so, as you can imagine, Jewish people are thinking, hey, you're putting our lives at risk. There's already people who are attacking us as though we were responsible for this. And by the way, you'll notice in the article right here, the guy Arnoud van Doorn, a member of the City Council of The Hague, posted the picture on Monday, the birthday of Adolf Hitler. He posted this on Hitler's birthday. In other words, friend, that's not an accident. He is intentionally raising the Hitler persona, as it were, with an attachment to Israel and tying it to Corona. This is not good. Here's another article out of the Jerusalem Post, a new Christian anti-Semitism. And the article begins, this November of last year, the task of theology requires an assessment, not only of the Bible, but of the reality around us. What's going on? The Jerusalem Post is asking, because there's so much of it. Here's a video that comes out of, again, not a Messianic organization, United with Israel. They reject Messianic Judaism. They're not followers of Jesus. In December of 2019, this is actually a video we won't take 5 minutes to watch. An Israeli woman was visiting the US, and she watched this woman basically start to berate a Jewish man on the subway, and she described the scene and how she ended up having to get involved, and she ended up with scratches on her face. And so she's telling the story, and she's telling people, you need to stand up to anti-Semitism. You need to speak out. We can't be quiet about this. We can't be quiet. Friend, I don't think it's a coincidence that 2018 was a record year, 2019 was a record year, and now in 2020, we've got this massive problem in America with the black-white issue, because we're not dealing with the foundational issue. Here's an article out of the New York Post. I want you to notice the date on this. December 27th, 2019. Okay, the date's very important. One of the reasons, only one of the reasons that the date is important is because Hanukkah in 2019 was December 23 to December 30, as you can see on the bottom of your screen. So this is the 5th day of the 8-day long holiday of Hanukkah. And the article is called 4 Jewish Women Targeted in Latest Anti-Semitic Attacks in Brooklyn. So 4 women, that number is important, 4 women attacked on the 5th day of Hanukkah in 2019. Sometimes nothing was said, but there was a punch or a slap out of nowhere. Other times the assailants shouted a hateful slur that left no question of the motive. F you, Jews. There have been 8 attacks in the city so far this week, all during Hanukkah. 8 times then, Jewish people By the fifth day of Hanukkah, 8 times Jews had been slapped or punched in some kind of violent attack, and all but one of them, the article says, happened in the Orthodox Jewish neighborhoods of Brooklyn. Now again, December 27th, and it's 4 women, 4 attacks. Let's go to the next article, because you'll notice this is the very next day. This is December 28th. Now that last article was 4 women, and you'll notice down in the middle of this article, it says 3 Orthodox women. So this is a different event, and this is the next day. Bail reform is setting suspects free after a string of anti-Semitic attacks. Suspects arrested in last week's spree of 8 anti-Semitic attacks are being quickly released right back into the neighborhoods they terrorized thanks to bail reform legislation, which doesn't even take effect until January 1st. In this case, a woman charged with punching and cursing 3 Orthodox women. Apparently they didn't fight back, right? Last month, the same woman was sentenced to no jail time for felony criminal mischief, a case in which she has repeatedly failed to make court appearances. And in this particular case, the court prosecutors didn't even bother requesting bail, which they could have, because the bail reform legislation didn't start until January 1st. So this is the day after. So you can see these are multiple attacks every day during the 8-day feast of Hanukkah, festival of Hanukkah last year. Jews were beaten, attacked, or killed. Now, most people have no idea that went on. Now, there's a lot of concern about what's going on in the Black Lives Matter movement. And there are certainly some anti-Semitic streams within that as well, which are, of course, of concern. Well, I'd like you to know that there are also voices of hope within the Black Lives Matter movement. For example, Pittsburgh Steelers football player Zach Banner made a hugely powerful statement. This is out of United with Israel, made hugely powerful statement this week, July 8th, 2020, calling on my NFL brothers to join him to support the Jewish community in the wake of an anti-Semitic social media post by another NFL player. And he says, don't step on Jews to uplift yourself. He says, blacks are wrong to think Jews are like other whites. Friend, Jews have been through a lot. No one understands, I'll just say it, no one understands a history of racism like the Jewish people. In no way do I want to demean the year 1619 and what has happened to black people. It is horrible. It is horrific. It is disgusting. And what just happened with George Floyd, it's horrible. It's horrific. It's disgusting what's happened since 1619 in the US. Okay? But let's just go back. Go back to 1500 BC. And you have a string of anti-Semitism from Moses's day, documented in scripture and other history. And you can go back all the way, as we saw in the last lesson, 2000 BC, all the way to Abraham. And we as Jews ought to know how serious this issue is with racism against, in this case, black people. So we should be involved, and Jewish people have always been involved in the civil rights movement in America. Here's another one, another voice of hope in the Black Lives Matter movement. Kareem AbdulJabbar. He said, he says the shocking lack of massive indignation over anti-Semitic outbursts by black personalities like Ice Cube perpetuates racism. He says anti-Semitic tweets and posts from sports and entertainment celebrities are a very troubling omen for the future of Black Lives Matter movement. But so too is the shocking lack of massive indignation. In other words, he's saying, hey, the future of our movement is in trouble if we continue to treat Jews like that. We're hypocrites. So I want you to know that there are some very significant voices of hope within the Black Lives Matter movement, and we should be applauding them. And so as we come to the end of our lesson, I just want to encourage you, you can chart your future. Because God plainly said to Abraham, I will bless those who bless you, I will curse him who curses you, and in you, Abraham, will all the families of the earth be blessed. It is through your family and how people treat your family that all the families of the earth will be blessed. So, my friend, let me just bless you. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav alecha v'hunecha, Yisa Adonai panav alecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Lord bless you. I look forward to seeing you in our next lesson, which will be the new anti-Semitism, and I think you may be shocked with what's going on.